The art historian Ernest Gombrich once said that he thought restorers were a necessary evil. And I think that's a really interesting quotation, because restorers often get a really bad press for damaging pictures. I'm not sure that this is the case, but what I do know is that paintings wouldn't survive without the intervention of somebody. Over hundreds of years, people have been trying to repair pictures and look after them, and that's what a restorer is. I work for Brighton and Hove City Council, and I work in their museum service. Museum service consists of the Royal Pavilion and a number of different museums around the city, and within those museums there are about 2,000 oil paintings, and I care for those. Traditionally, paintings were varnished to enhance the colours and protect them, but varnishes go yellow with age, and if you've got several layers of varnish, possibly with dirt layers in between, the painting can become virtually invisible. Those layers have to be very carefully removed, taking great care not to damage the picture. Usually small swabs are used with solvents or cleaning agents on to remove the discoloured layers. I was really lucky to get into painting conservation, as I actually studied English and philosophy at university. But I had a friend who was a furniture restorer who persuaded me to go and work with him, and that was enough for me to get the bug of working with old things. And then from there I was extremely lucky to get a job at the National Gallery in London, working on the structure of pictures, so on the backs, repairing the timber, repairing the canvas. And I was there for 10 years, and then again I was very lucky to get a job here in Brighton, being able to work on everything, fronts as well as backs. In the conservation team here we've got 9 people, and that includes specialists who work, for instance, only on paper, wallpapers, prints and drawings, watercolours, or they specialise in gilding, or they're specialised cleaners that keep everything looking pristine. The skills that you need to be a painting conservator involve, and you've got to be really interested in art, and you've also got to be very patient. You've also not got to mind working on your own. You've got to be able to motivate yourself, because some of the work can be very boring and time consuming. I think also you've got to have a certain amount of humility, because it's not your painting. You didn't create the work, you're just trying to make it presentable, and so you should always consider the person who created it and what their ideas were, and don't imagine that you can improve on what they did. The support of any painting is a key element of its construction. If the support is damaged, then paint will be lost. Here the support is wood, and it's been attacked by wood-boring insects, so much so that the panel has actually got so weak it's broken in half. If somebody wants to go into painting conservation now, the normal route is to have a first degree in a relevant subject, so that may be history of art, fine art, possibly chemistry, and then you would go on to study a diploma specifically in painting restoration at the 3 institutes in this country that hold those courses: the Courtauld Institute, Hamilton Carr, which is the University of Cambridge, and there's also a course at the University of Newcastle. There aren't very many jobs in painting conservation. If you have to think about it in relation to the number of paintings there are, say, in the world, there aren't going to be as many paintings as there are, say, buses. So you need lots of bus drivers, but you don't need that many painting conservators really, if you think about it. So it's quite a small world. Now, if you manage to go into training, the best chance you've got a job is through that training being introduced to the world, if you like, of museums and painting conservation. So there are a few jobs in museums that come up very rarely. There are also jobs in the private sector, because there are many, many paintings held by private collectors, and that's a very important area of painting conservation work, people who are working freelance. And so those are the 2 jobs, if you like, at the end of the training, either working for a freelance conservator within the private sector or within a museum. Sometimes when you're working on pictures, you can find out very interesting technical information about the way the works were constructed. These pictures were actually made from a piece of oak that had already been painted on. It's a picture of a monk on the back, now sawn into 3 pieces. As long as there are paintings around, we're going to need painting conservators, because they will get damaged. It's just life, things do fall apart. At the moment, the emphasis is very much on the collecting of contemporary works rather than old masters. But in 30 or 40 years, those paintings will have become old themselves. And often the materials and techniques of modern pictures are very, very difficult to deal with, and their pictures are hard to repair. So conservators of the future will have to develop techniques, new techniques, to deal with those sorts of problems.